Hello, welcome back to PlayStation Access. I'm Nathan and I'm here with Dave.
Hello!
Dave, we just watched the State of Play for The Last of Us Part 2. So we have seen some new Last of Us Part 2 gameplay. And we've also seen a lot of details revealed by the game's director, Neil Druckmann. You and I watched a lot of gameplay demos, gameplay reveals. And the reason this video has the title is because I cannot remember one that was as impressive as that. We're going to run through a list of reasons why it kind of blew us away and caught our eye, and we think that The Last of Us 2 might be the best game on PS4.
I am a terribly jaded man, Nath. I'm terribly jaded, and I was absolutely blown away by what we saw last night. I've been, to be honest, I hadn't even realised I've been kind of keeping my head in the sand when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2. I've been letting it happen in the background. I know it's coming, don't want to look at it too closely. Last night I looked at it too closely and I was completely blown away. It's the most impressive gameplay demo I've ever seen, and I can't wait to play it. But let's talk about it.
You've gone big. I like it.
I've gone big.
I like it.
Yeah.
So we're no numbered list, but we're going to pull out the details that we really like. So first of all, Mr. Druckmann laid out the scenario. I'm going to be referring to a list of things up here, by the way. He laid out the scenario. So Ellie and Joel at this point are now living in a settlement in Jackson in Wyoming. It's a stable community. Ellie's 19. She has friends. Something bad happens to Ellie and to Jackson, which makes Ellie leave. And she the theme is it's a revenge mission, right? She's going out to find the people that did her wrong. It looks like that probably takes place in Seattle, which Druckmann was saying is the place where most of the game takes place. And I guess the first point we're going to kind of pause on is that he mentioned that Seattle includes some of the biggest environments that Naughty Dog have ever made, such that Ellie uses a horse and sometimes a boat when it's flooded areas to get around. So we're not kind of talking about the same scale of environments that we saw in The Last of Us. These are huge vistas.
Yeah, absolutely massive. And I mean, this is, no pun intended, that's huge. I've just been playing Uncharted 4, and some of those maps are vast. Madagascar, Scotland. So to say that we're going to be looking at similar or larger scale areas of The Last of Us Part 2 is just hugely exciting. To bring that kind of gameplay to the world of The Last of Us, I think is just, I can't imagine what we're going to see.
And I agree, because what's really exciting for me, the reason that I love that world of The Last of Us is the way that it's kind of morbid but beautiful. It kind of imagines a world without humans, and the way that nature will have reclaimed things and there were ruins. And there was mention in the video that the areas of Seattle will include the kind of ruined high-rises of downtown, some of the suburbs, and then the waterfronts. There's a big range of environments. Actually, he also mentioned different climates as well, so kind of tons of environmental stuff going on. But there is also, within The Last of Us, more of a kind of a fine detail. Perhaps, if Uncharted, it is about detail too, but it's about scope. So you're right, when you kind of take that approach and and then you're saying that these are still some of the biggest environments that Naughty Dog have made. Yeah, like you said, that's huge. That's a big deal. Also a big deal that these environments are more explorable. And I think that this is one of the things. You and I recently played The Last of Us Remastered, and you forget it's originally a PS3 game, and just the small, there is maybe no big headline here, but the small things which you can see in this game, which are kind of dialing up the nuance and sophistication of things that you can do, ways that Ellie can move, just different animations, new traversal options and mechanics, like just climbing, swinging from ropes, small spaces that you can fit through, those kind of things. There's just a whole different kind of calibration to it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it sounds like players are going to be rewarded for exploring. I mean, I want to explore this world. As you kind of were just saying, the scale of it is shocking. As in the scale of this disaster, this sort of post-pandemic world. Seeing that, seeing whole cities being emptied and reclaimed by nature is incredible, and I want to explore them. And so it sounds like players are going to be rewarded for doing that with kind of items that you're going to pick up, resources and things, but also with additional kind of environmental storytelling and things of that nature.
I will search for half an hour for an extra bit of sticky tape, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of player, so this is exciting to me too. The other thing about Seattle, and this is one of the things that I've been really waiting for more detail on since I think I can't remember, was it a PSX? Maybe the bit of gameplay was revealed with the kind of
yes, it was
firelit forest scene.
Yeah.
So there are in Seattle tons of threats. One of them on one side is the WLF, and these people look to be like an organized kind of militaristic outfit, and then on the other side, weirder cult-like. So, I'm totally down for it, and we kind of got a sense from that, from the scene I'm referring. They're called the Seraphites, or Scars, and they're religious zealots. And these are in opposition.
So that's my two choices. Who are you going to go for? I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to get a vibe, Nath. I don't know about you, that maybe the humans in The Last of Us are the monsters, the real monsters. I don't know. You heard it here first.
You might be onto something there, and I think I always mention it in jest when we talk about The Last of Us Part 2 that I have had a chance to play the game at a preview event a few months ago, and one of the things that Neil Druckmann said at that event was, if the theme of the first Last of Us was love, it was what you would do, how far you would go, what kind of actions you would do. This one is about hate, and then he kind of drew back and said, not so much hate, but revenge. What will you be motivated to do from the opposite point of view, and knowing that I'm excited about everything in this game, like all of the gameplay and the environments look insane, but knowing that there is a kind of a philosophical underpinning which is in line with the matches and develops what was going on in the first game, that's as exciting to me as everything else.
Definitely. And I think just also being apart from warring factions is a really interesting standpoint. You're not in one group or the other. Right. It would appear anyway. Ellie certainly seems to hate both factions equally, and also how that might play out in gameplay. We definitely saw one kind of newer thing in the gameplay we saw last night was the infected being fighting against one of the groups. I think it was WLF.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll see several of those kind of groups coming into contact with one another.
So yeah, correct. I mean, Druckmann was pointing out that there are going to be certain scenes where hanging back and letting something play out is perhaps strategically the best option. And he also introduced a new member of the infected family, Dave, because we shouldn't forget they're also infected. So runners, clickers, stalkers, they're all back. Hello. Also shamblers, who shamble and spit out acidic spores.
Yeah, you just, it brings a new meaning to shambles, because I thought they sounded kind of friendly and nice, and they were a bit big and a bit slow, and then, oh no, they're just walking kind of pus bombs. That's great. That wasn't even the worst thing though, Nate. That was unfortunately, Druckmann also hinted at, well, not even hinted, just said that there are other
You'd love it if it was a hint.
Other kinds of enemies as well, and we were just treated to an absolutely blood-curdling sound, which I'm not going to be able to cope with in the game, I don't think.
Do you know that kind of, because this is a game which is sophisticated, character-driven. It's that's what makes it stand apart. At the same time, that made me feel like I was watching a preview of an old-school horror game. Like on PS2. I had that real kind of, I'm going to have to fight that thing at some point. And that's a great feeling. I really enjoyed that. So,
I totally agree.
I mean, we're getting on to the combat. We saw quite a bit of combat.
Yeah.
And you were kind of saying it was nice to see a combat run, when you see an extended bit of gameplay and you see how all the kind of systems mesh together. And again, kind of like we were saying about exploration, there isn't necessarily one thing where you're like, they've done this and that has made it better. But overall, one of the phrases that Neil Druckmann, which really stuck with me, that he said in the presentation, he said analog stealth. And this was during a period of play. It was actually the section which I had played last year, where Ellie is in long grass and the WLF are surrounding her. And that grass is good for if they're quite far away, but if they get too close, it's situational. So as with a lot of things, it's not, one or the other. It's not this binary, you're in cover or you're not in cover, or you're in stealth and you're not in stealth. And it's true of being able, the system is sophisticated enough that during any encounter, if you break stealth or if you're discovered, you can disengage and then come back, re-establish stealth and have the upper hand again. And there just seems to be so many touches which just take off the corners of the combat experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, as I've said, hugely impressive, and I think that it was such a confident presentation to just here's a few minutes of gameplay to just enjoy. We're not going to talk over it. We're not going to explain it. We're just going to show it to you, and it was so. Just so incredible. It was so visceral. It was the way everything works together. Everything works in harmony. The way that the kind of the game gets out of the way and just lets you play. The way that the tempo instantly can sort of ramp up into quite tense action, and then with Ellie running away, getting back into stealth, taking a moment, crafting something, could completely change again. It's just. I just don't think there's any other kind of gameplay experience out there like it, and it's just so confident, and every part of it is working to get out of your way and just help you kind of feel what Ellie's feeling. I think the whole thing you said about analog stealth is just another reflection of that. There's no real ever safe time. You're not sucked into cover. You're not sucked into this long grass where you can just lie there and everything will be all right. You're Sure. always thinking. You're always on the move. You're always wondering where the next threat is.
Do you know this? I just think there's a consistent sort of removal of things which kind of break the experience at all. And the one thing that really jumped out for me as a tiny, tiny detail was Ellie was looking down on, sadly, a dog, but also a human, and about to throw a Molotov cocktail. And because of the way that she kind of leant out from cover and was above them, switched it from her right hand to her left hand, just that's so much work just in being able to do that, it not being now it's in your other hand, the smooth transition. It was just, and I guess that's kind of what I mean, that
exactly
subtle quality of life stuff is incredible.
Exactly. And that because that's how you'd expect a human to actually move. You don't see it, almost in a way, you right. Don't see it, it happens, and that means that you're not thinking about a game anymore. You're thinking about the characters and what's happening. It's incredible. Right,
which is what kind of, we've spoken about Naughty Dog a lot, but and about what they do, but they have, all of the systems and the story. It's all geared it's all pointing in the same direction. It's all trying to make you feel the same thing. It's all working in harmony to tell this story. Storytelling through Molotov cocktails. There are also there's crafting, weapon and character upgrades, kind of similar but expanded to the first game. There's a new workbench system, I guess, is the main difference, where you can change and upgrade your guns. Looked like we saw Ellie making a scope for one of her weapons. Also saw stun bomb, trap mine, suppressor made from a drinks bottle, and an incendiary arrow. Did you like it when she got to the hospital, Dave, and there was some PlayStation Vita?
Oh man, I was so excited. First of all, I think we hear the soundtrack first, and I was crazy because I knew it and I couldn't think what it was. I mean, you have now told me, Nathan. You can reveal to the world.
Sure. Well, it's my walking to work music, so it's Moon from the soundtrack of Hotline Miami.
Right. It only slightly concerns me that you walk to work whilst listening to the soundtrack of Hotline Miami. Very quickly, yeah, I know, because you're always late. But no, I mean, it was so nice to see the Vita. It looked glorious, and I mean, my Vita was basically my Hotline Miami machine. So I was very, very pleased with that, and again, just the fun. It's that Naughty Dog are just so good, aren't they? In this kind of horrible world, very tense, very overbearing world, and a game that's about revenge and obviously quite a lot of dark themes and stress and tension. They still have fun. They still put in nice, fun things that you can smile about and enjoy.
Well, it's important for us.
That security guard was very soon after killed.
But I was going to say, it's important for us, but it's important for the characters as well. You get the sense that they can't live in a world that awful all of the time.
Yes.
And I guess, yeah, you're right. There is the scene afterwards. There's almost like an element of regret in Ellie, and I feel like those sort of the nuances that you get even in the most intense sort of action moments, when she kind of says, well, that was dumb, or that was stupid. I can't remember the exact line. Sort of regret, and then you see a different side of Ellie when she kind of confronts the person that she has apparently met before, the person that she's looking for in this hospital, and asks her if she remembers Ellie. And then just sees in her eye that she does. Which Ellie's badass now. I mean, she was always quite badass, but now she's really badass.
She was. I mean, it's so cool to have kind of seen her grow up from The Last of Us to The Last of Us Part 2. And I'm really, really just itching to find out what's changed, what's changed her and what's changed in her, and how much of it are we going to see in this game. What happens in Jackson? What happens to Jackson? And by the way, as someone who has grown up called Jackson a lot, I found that whole chat very upsetting. Jackson's fine. Yeah, Jackson's going to be fine.
I'm sure Jackson will be fine. One of them, anyway. That's it. And that was the end of the gameplay. And we kind of got to the end of it. And this is the title that we decided. But like I said at the beginning, we try not to be incredibly hyperbolic, but this is, in terms of just, it's so impressive. And we didn't know what else to call it. And we think it's in with a shout. It's just so good. And I can't wait to play it. And there's not long left, Dave. You're right. This is the perfect time to turn on the just let your excitement run wild. There's not long to go.
The excitement hose is running free. That's okay. I'm not sure if that's an analogy people use.
It could have gone worse, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask people now, leave your thoughts in the comments, please. Do give this video if you enjoyed it. And also go and watch State of Play, the full thing, if you haven't already. Do subscribe to PlayStation Access, because we're going to be covering The Last of Us Part 2 as soon as we possibly can.
For the players.